Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm Amy Harris. I'm the manager of the Patient-Centered Primary Care Home Program, and I'd like to just welcome you to today's learning collaborative. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amber Anderson, who's going to start the facilitation of today's meeting. So.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amber Anderson. Thank you for joining us for this learning collaborative on PCPCH Standard 2C, Patient and Family Involvement in Quality Improvement. So here we're going to go over a few learning collaborative logistics and Zoom etiquette reminders. This learning collaborative will be recorded, so you will have an opportunity to review it later, or if any colleagues want to watch it later, they certainly can. If you're having any technical difficulties, excuse me, or Zoom challenges, please private message Amy Harris for help. If you feel comfortable, please have your camera on and put your name and organization information up on there. And as Amy said, make sure to have yourself muted. If you have any questions or comments, you can put those in the chat. We'll be looking through that throughout the learning collaborative. And we'll also be putting links in the chat throughout the collaborative, so you'll want to make sure to keep an eye out for those. So here's our agenda for this learning collaborative. Again, we're going to go ahead and start out with a quick icebreaker, followed by a brief rundown of our PCPCH model. Then we will go over a few technical resources before diving into the 2C standard. Then we're going to have two practices sharing their experiences with measure 2C2 and 2C3. And to end today's learning collaborative, we're very excited to have patients from both clinics that are presenting today. 3 patients will be sharing their experiences and involvement with their active PFACs within their practices. And we'll have time to hear from them and also ask some questions. So for today's icebreaker, we're curious what your practice's current PFAC implementation status looks like. So you can see there's 4 different options. A being we currently have a PFAC. B, we are planning to implement a PFAC. C is you have no plans to have a PFAC. And D is other. We wanted to kind of open it up to wherever else you're at. So go ahead and put your responses in the chat box now. Really curious. It will definitely help us to see where you're at on your PFAC journey. Let's take a couple minutes for that, or seconds. Lots of A's and B's. Oh, there's a D. New to this role, they don't have a PFAC yet. Do not have the buy-in for a PFAC unless we find the need for the points. Well, I think it'll be good for clinics, especially, in that space where, you need to find the reason for the buy-in. That can be hard. That can be one of the starting points of where to start your PFAC is, do you have that buy-in? I think it'd be great for you guys to hear from the clinics today on how they've gotten that buy-in. I love PFAC. Good, we're glad to hear it. Lots of PFACs went on hiatus during the pandemic, and a lot of clinics are in that same space of how do we look at restarting it and what it's going to look like compared to what it used to pre-pandemic. Well, great. Thank you all for participating in that. It gives us a really great picture where you guys are at. And hopefully this learning collaborative will provide some helpful tools to you, regardless of where you're at in your process. So I'm going to go over some background information on our program. It was established in 2009 by the Oregon State Legislature as part of the state's broader transformation efforts to achieve better health, better care, and lower costs within the health system. The intent was to improve Oregon's primary care system by developing a set of standards for practices to go by. After the legislation was passed, a voluntary advisory committee was convened to develop the PCPCH standards. The committee has reconvened several times over the years to refine the standards, most recently just this last year. More than 600 primary care clinics are recognized as PCPCHs in Oregon, and that's about 2/3 of all primary care clinics within the state. There are recognized PCPCHs in 35 out of 36 counties in Oregon, and approximately 3/4 of all Oregonians receive their care at a PCPCH. PCPCHs range in size from clinics with one provider to clinics with over 200 providers and clinical staff. So we see it all. Participation in the PCPCH program is voluntary and recognition is attestation based. So the program conducts on-site visits to a select number of PCPCHs each year to verify that clinics are meeting the measures they've attested to in their application, but also to provide those clinics with technical assistance. The PCPCH recognition criteria is defined by our 6 core attributes, each with specific standards under each attribute and measures that indicate the extent to which the clinic is meeting each standard. There are 11 must-pass measures all clinics must meet, and more than 50 optional measures worth 5, 10, and 15 points. There are 5 tiers of recognition based on which measures the clinic is meeting. So here are some technical resources available to you. We always have our most updated version of our PCPCH recognition criteria, technical specifications, and reporting guide, or as we call it, the TA guide. It's always available on our website. We also have a monthly newsletter that goes out, and you can sign up for that as well if you're not already receiving it. Along with our TA guide, we also have a bunch of other documents, webinars, and other recordings available on our website. So if you haven't yet visited it, I would definitely suggest going on there and checking out some of the resources we've created. Our learning collaborative last week, we took a look into the toolkit that was created by our PCPCH staff for Standard 2C. We've added the link to our toolkit in the chat, so you can take a look at that on your own time. Again, a big thank you to Evergreen Medical for allowing us to use and share some of their documentation in that 2C toolkit. I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague Becky, who is going to take a dive into the measure language for Standard 2C.
Great, thanks Amber. Hi everyone, my name's Becky Velasco and I'm a site visitor with the PCPCH program. And right now I'm going to walk you through the basics of Standard 2C. So as you guys probably know, PCPCH Standard 2C is all about getting patients involved in improving the practice. The standard has 3 measures that increase in complexity and point value. This is not a must-pass measure and is a progressive measure, meaning PCPCH practices can attest to only one of the 3 measures in the standard. So the measures are as follows. Measure 2C1, PCPCH involves patients, families, and caregivers as advisors on at least one quality or safety initiative per year. This measure is worth 5 points. 2C2, PCPCH has established a formal mechanism to integrate patient, family, and caregiver advisors as key members of quality, safety, program development, and/or educational improvement activities. This measure is worth 10 points. And 2C3, patient, family, and caregiver advisors are integrated into the PCPCH and function in peer support or training roles. That measure is worth 15 points. And before we dive into each measure in more detail, I want to quickly review the intent of Standard 2C as it appears in the TA guide. So while all practices aspire to be responsive to the needs of their patients, formalizing the involvement of diverse patients, families, and caregivers in quality improvement efforts increases a practice's ability to be responsive to their needs. While quality improvement is implicit to several other standards, these measures provide a roadmap for practices to engage diverse patients, families, and caregivers as advisors in quality improvement activities. So with that in mind, let's take a closer look at Measure 2C1. PCPCH Measure 2C1 is about involving patients in at least one quality or safety initiative each year. A practice is meeting Measure 2C1 if it has convened a group of diverse patients, families, and/or caregiver advisors at least once within the last 12 months to provide feedback and guidance on how the practice can improve on a specific area of focus. The practice must document the guidance gathered during this advisory process. Moving on to PCPCH Measure 2C2, which focuses on formally engaging patients as advisors to the practice on an ongoing basis. A practice is meeting Measure 2C2 if it continually involves patients, families, and caregiver advisors as members of ongoing quality improvement, safety, and/or program development activities at the practice. 2C3 is the final measure in the standard. It takes patient engagement further by integrating patients into peer support or training roles. A practice is meeting 2C3 if it is doing all of the following. First, like in Measure 2C2, it continually involves patients, families, and caregiver advisors as members of ongoing quality improvement, safety, and/or program development activities at the practice. And second, it has patients, families, and/or caregiver advisors who are integrated into the practice and have defined roles in administration or patient care, such as providing peer support to patients or assisting in the training and hiring of practice staff. There must be an established process for recruiting, training, and supporting diverse patient, family, and caregiver advisors. Their training should include topics such as HIPAA and signing of a confidentiality statement, safety, infection control, etc. Additionally, the practice tracks information on patient advisory positions, such as identified positions, services provided, hours worked, and performance evaluations. And just so we're all on the same page, here are the definitions of some key terms you'll find in Standard 2C. Diverse patients can be defined as patients that vary by age, sex, race, ethnicity, preferred language, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, health condition, and length of time as a patient at the practice, among other characteristics. Peer support can be defined as support provided to patients, families, and caregivers by a patient of the practice who has similar life experience. And throughout this presentation, we will be using the acronym PFAC to mean Patient and Family Advisory Council, which is the group of patients, families, or caregivers who regularly meet to work on quality improvement, safety, and/or program development activities at your practice.
Great, thank you so much, Becky, for going through those measures. To some folks, it might seem like a review, like we've gone over that a couple times, but we just always want to present that for anybody who might have been not available last week and are joining this week for their first learning collaborative. So thanks for that. So now we have a few moments for any questions. If anybody has any questions on the measure language or any of those key definitions, we can take a moment to do that. If anything pops up, if not, we can totally just keep on moving along. We're right on time, so. Not see anything come up on the chat. Okay. Well, we will go ahead and move along. Now is time for our first practice to present. First up is Evergreen Family Medicine in Roseburg. We've really been impressed numerous times with Evergreen Family Medicine, and they have helped us by presenting on several occasions in the past. So we're really happy to have them joining us again. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashley to share on how they have created and sustained such a successful PFAC.
Thank you, Amber. My name is Ashley. I work at Evergreen Family Medicine, like she said, in Roseburg. We also have locations in Myrtle Creek and Sutherland. We're a little bit larger RHC, and we're able to offer family medicine, women's health and OB, urgent care, endocrinology, and behavioral health. We first established our Patient and Family Advisory Council in 2017. Next slide. So when it is time for us to recruit new patients to our PFAC, we typically run a report for our providers on their patients who've been seen within the last 6 months and ask them to provide some recommendations. Once we get our nominees, we send out a little packet to them in the mail that includes a welcome invitation letter, and it lets them know they've been hand selected by their provider for this committee. It outlines a deadline to turn in their application and how to turn it in, where they can turn it in. And it also outlines the commitment required and when meetings are held, and lets them know just that we are seeking patient perspective to enhance the patient and family experience here at our practice. We also include our PFAC charter, which outlines Evergreen's mission as a whole and the goal and vision of the PFAC. We do include an application. There are 7 main questions that we ask patients to complete. We want them to describe a positive experience they've had here at Evergreen, something they think we could do better in order to better serve our patients and families. We ask them what certain topics they might be interested in. We ask why they're interested in joining the PFAC. And then we ask what activities they've participated in as a team member. So that can be from, wherever in their life, and what positive improvements they would like to see as a result of their participation in the council, and then have it open-ended, anything else you would like to add. And we do have them fill out their contact preferences, as well as a little bit of demographic info so that we can make sure we're trying to hit a little bit of diversity in our members. The application is reviewed by our PFAC team internally, and it's a lot like hiring for a job at our clinic. We review those applications. Some patients are not invited to an interview, and then others are. And so we actually bring them in for an interview at the clinic with the PFAC team. We ask them to describe someone with good listening skills. We ask what experiences they've had personally, professionally, and as volunteers. I'm so sorry our lights went out. Can you guys still see me? Okay, I'm just gonna cruise. So any volunteer, personal, professional experiences they've had that might help them in their role as an advisor, and to describe a healthcare experience where expectations were not met and how they handled that situation. We ask what matters most to them during their healthcare experience, and then we really open it up to allow them to ask us questions about the PFAC so that they, kind of feel comfortable about what they're signing up for. So after we interview our patients, we do send letters to everyone to let them know they've been selected, or unfortunately not at this time. And the welcome letter encloses additional documents that needs to be signed. So it outlines that. Things like privacy agreements, the PFAC agreement, which is shown on the screen. And that outlines both the clinic's responsibilities and the patient, because this is a group effort. And it also lets them know their orientation date. So we have all of our advisors come in for an orientation before their first official PFAC meeting. And it's just to get them comfortable knowing where to go, give them a tour of the building. They get a badge. So it's very similar to our employee badge, but it says PFAC advisor. So they get to wear that when they come into their meetings. And then we collect all of the paperwork that we needed signed. Next slide. So this is not all of our members, but most of our members. And we asked them to sign up for a 2-year term with the option for renewal. So over the years, we do have patients that decide not to renew or they need to drop out for various reasons, and we understand that. Most of our patients do renew their terms, and we actually have a few patients that were originally with us when we started in 2017. This is one of them next to me, Linda. We'll get to hear from her later. During COVID, of course, for a few months there, we canceled our meetings. We weren't really sure what was happening, but we kept in contact with our patients via phone or email during that time. And then we all kind of agreed, let's go ahead and start having our meetings virtually. Thankfully, most of our advisors had the technology available that we could continue to meet virtually. But we were very excited when it was time to be able to resume in-person meetings. So our advisors know that I'm available to call or email in between meetings. I'm always happy to talk to them. They don't have to wait until they come in for a PFAC meeting to give me information or ask questions. And we've been very, very fortunate to have a group of advisors that just truly are invested. We have a variety of patients with some taking care of children who are patients, some taking care of parents who are aging that are patients, some are patients themselves, men and women taking advantage of some of our specialty services. And many of our advisors have actually become friends with one another. It's a lot of fun when we get together. And we really let them know you as a patient advisor are a liaison to the community and us. And so we always encourage them, if you know other folks who are Evergreen patients, you can always ask them for feedback and then relay that to us. So this group really just kind of takes it upon themselves to, like I said, be invested and proactive, and really they take the responsibility seriously. Next slide. So for our meetings, I always send out an agenda in advance, just to kind of get them, give them a heads up for what we're going to be discussing. A lot of times, if we're going to be looking at, some data or anything, I'll send that in advance so they can kind of read through it. We always follow up on anything that needed to be addressed after our last meeting. And then I always have the last agenda item as open, because our patients always have something they would like to bring to our attention. We always have at least one provider and myself present, as well as someone to take notes, which is super helpful for documentation. And our meetings are pretty casual. Like I said, some of us have been together for a while, so it's like a meeting of friends while still being extremely productive. And then something that's very important to us is the feedback loop. So in our early stages of the PFAC, Evergreen was going through a period of rapid growth. And so we were having our PFAC meetings every month. It was really important to get that feedback quickly. And then as things slowed down, we moved to every other month meetings. So we have a PCPCH and a quality improvement committees here at Evergreen. And so we often take things from those committees to our PFAC and get our patients input on that. Always discussing our quality improvement projects for the year. And then we're sure to take the feedback from the patients back to those committee meetings as well. And then we document specifically that patient feedback in our PDSAs. And so that what's showing on the screen is just an example of an agenda, as well as the PDSA documentation. And then recently, in the last few months, we actually made a pretty big transition. We brought 5 of our advisors onto our PCPCH quality improvement and RHC committees. So they attend regularly right along with our staff. And this allows just that immediate and direct feedback and increased communication. it's been a really positive experience for us. And so as a result, because our PFAC is a little bit large, we moved our meetings to quarterly so that we're still connecting with the rest of the members. And it allows for just, it's working very well for us. And then as always, our advisors are still able to communicate with me in between meetings, and they often take advantage of that. Next slide. So that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything they would like to ask.
Thank you, Ashley, so much. That was just a wonderful presentation. I think it gives a lot of things for folks to think about when they're going through the steps of implementing and retaining those folks. I mean, just speaks, I think, volumes that you've had patients involved since your start in 2017. So that's really great. So yeah, as Ashley said, we have a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, that's why they're here, is to answer questions. Our PCPCH team can answer any questions that you guys might have. A lot of the documents that Ashley was referring to are in our toolkit, the welcome packet, a lot of those applications and documents for patients to sign. So there's a question in the chat, Ashley, with the welcome packet, are you including any other items like swag, or what are you offering to volunteers to make it enticing to give up their time? And someone else just asked her if there's any kind of compensation that you offer any of the PFAC members for their time.
Mm-hmm. We don't actually offer any swag, but we do provide lunch. So our meetings are held over the lunchtime, and so they do get to eat lunch. Yeah, I don't really think your PFAC badge probably counts as swag. I think we just really tried to reinforce that we wanted their feedback, and we valued that, and we didn't really need swag, I guess.
Right. It's important to have people that are that dedicated involved. Yeah.
Well, and I think just, I think the feedback loop is so important to keep folks wanting to come back, and they're giving up their time, and then they're hearing back from you that the time they're giving you is making a difference in their practice. So I think that is a really important way to know that their time is valued by you, is hearing what you're doing with their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question. Have you continued to add new members even though the group is so well established, or has there been continued interest from the community to join?
Yeah, we have continued to add throughout the years, because like I said, some patients do need to quit. And so we try, our goal is usually about 6 to 8. And we just added a location in this past summer. And so I was looking at our current group and realizing, okay, we need to have somebody from that location or branch off and have a separate PFAC. So yes, over the years, we do add new advisors, and always offer, if you don't have to stay, you've been here 4 years, if you're ready to leave, it's okay to do so. So yes, we do.
We have another question in the chat. First off, great presentation. What examples can you provide of your PFAC achieving the 2C3 measure?
We don't actually attest to 2C3.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Chris, that's actually, I think, a great segue to our next presenter, who is going to be presenting on how they're meeting the 2C3 measure, where you're actually integrating the patients into your practice. So unless there's any other questions for Ashley, I think that is a good time to kind of move on to the next clinic. And we'll have another question session as well, so we can ask more questions then. So I'm going to have our next clinic present, and this is White Oak Medical Center, and they are also in Roseburg. We've visited the practice in the past and have been impressed with the way that they've integrated patients into their practice for that 2C3 measure. So we're really excited to hear from Gabrielle, who's one of the providers there at the clinic. So Gabrielle, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Amber. Well, my name is Gabrielle and I'm the office manager at White Oak Medical Clinic. I've been here over 15 years. We have 5 providers. So maybe we can go to the next slide. Yeah, we have 5 providers. We have been established here in Roseburg since 2004. And then you can go to the other slide. I just wanted you to get a quick overview of our practitioner. So we started our first PFAC meeting in 2017. We are doing quarterly meetings, and we have been very, very fortunate to have 4 members who have been there since the start, and they are all with me at this time. So we have a crowded room here. But you are welcome to ask them questions afterwards. They have been instrumental in helping us in many, many aspects of our business. You know, I don't know if there are some clinics out there that are thinking about starting a PFAC and you think, oh, we'll do it, you know, just to check mark the box. Well, here definitely it's been a game changer to have them involved in different aspects of the business and yeah, and what we do. So usually how we select patients, we ask the staff and all the providers to see if they have any idea of names of patients who might be interested in joining. And then I call them personally and I invite them. I explain them what the meeting will be about and ask them if they want to join. So typically we always have at least 4 members who are very stable, and sometimes we have other patients joining us. But the other patients are not always coming back or staying, but we rotate. Okay, so I think we can go to the next slide. And now I will talk about all the projects and improvement that we've been able to do with their help. So I think that one of the very interesting project that we have Debbie. She came when I was interviewing for a back office position. She came in and interviewed candidates with me. And we really had a lot of fun. I've been interviewing for, I'm sure you can imagine, but you know, I have been interviewing for a long time. And having Debbie with me was very helpful because she was bringing new questions that I would never have thought about asking a candidate. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting because it was giving me a different perspective on the person I had in front of me. And also having someone else talk, I could maybe pay better attention to the reactions. So this is really something that I encourage anyone to try. Here it has been very positive. I've learned a lot from watching someone else do that. So that's one of the projects we had, or I'm not sure if it's a project, but it's something we've been doing. Also last year, we started screening our patients for social needs. So we went online and we printed a few different screening forms, but none of them were really truly appealing to us, or we were not feeling like all those forms were exactly perfect and fitting into what we were needing. So we brought those forms to the PFAC and we asked them if they could combine them and make just one form that would fit the population here in Douglas County. And that would cover all of the areas we wanted to screen. They were very, very good. They came back very quickly with a neat form with, covering everything that we were wanting. And I think it was very important to involve patients in this aspect because they are also in the community themselves. They know what's needed here. And they're the ones going to be filling out those forms. So yeah, that was a very good project that we all did together. Another improvement that we've got was from Doug. He's sitting here. He came to a meeting and he told us about some screens, and that's a picture of one of the screen. But he came to a meeting and he told us about a screen that he has seen in a waiting room at a specialist. And we were like, oh, okay, that sounds very interesting. Actually, you might not be able to see it very clearly on the picture, but you can have access to the whole anatomy of a human. So you can zoom on the heart, you can zoom anywhere on the body. So it's very, very educative for patients. So while they are waiting, they can play with those screens. Doug brought that idea just before the pandemic. So we had our hands quite full at that time. And it was a little difficult to go see at other office what it was exactly. So it took us some time before implementing it, but Doug was very persistent. And he was like, I think it would be a great addition here. So he went and got us all of the information on how to enroll and have those screens in our rooms, which we finally did. And we are very thankful. It's a great addition to our practice. We have them in 6 of our rooms. Yeah. And also one of the last point, well, they're giving us general feedbacks, and I think that it's very important. We always ask, how was it? How was your last visit? Do you have anything to bring? And sometimes it can be like very little details or I mean, we pressure washed the building. We pressure washed the building this summer, and there's a little flake of, well, a little area of paint that went away. But they're telling us that, hey, you're missing paint there. The building looks clean, but you need to repaint. So, I mean, this is great because they have a very high attention to details. And I think this is important, and they're really good at communicating it as well. So, sometimes when you're used to seeing things around you, you don't really notice the little details. But that's why it's good to have an opinion coming from outside. So I don't know if any of you have any questions.
Thank you so much. That was just really great information. And, the way that you have brought patients in, whether it's a major thing like having them join in on the interviews of your staff, down to the paint's missing from this part of the building. It's like just that different perspective from your patients is so helpful with it. It's big things or little things. It's things that you are seeing from a different perspective. So it's really great to integrate your patients in that way. So now we have some time to ask any questions. I'm hopeful that some folks are maybe not so intimidated now by the prospect of having an integrated advisor in their practice. Maybe some ideas that you've gotten from the clinics that have presented might give you some hope of how you can integrate a patient into your practice in that way. So we do have some more time for some questions. Matt, I don't know if that answers your question from before. or Chris, excuse me,
With Chris, yeah.
or if there's any other questions. Oh, excuse me. Got ahead of myself there. I don't see anything coming up in the chat. Oh, okay. So Camilla has same question as before for White Oak. Anything that you've done to entice your PFAC members to join? Any kind of stipends or rewards for their time for coming in? Any lunches or goodies given out?
Yeah, we have snacks, but I'm not sure that this is what keep them coming. I think that they are just motivated themselves. They've just been a great support.
We just appreciate being able to be listened to, and we feel like that we're working with a team of professionals that really care about their patients, and they are very intent upon listening to our thoughts and suggestions, and they're very receptive to, oh, we can do that, or they're very honest and open about how they can approach it or not approach something. And there's been a lot of wonderful changes in the last 6 whatever years. So
7 years.
we feel fortunate. I feel fortunate to be able to be part of the group.
I think the key to having a successful one of these is find the right personalities of people that can work together from both aspects, from the providers and the patients. This group seems to have gelled very well, and I think that makes a world of difference, and I think it's why this is so successful. So if it takes you a little longer to get it going or find the right people, I think it's worth it. I think that's the key to having a successful one.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is a great way to kind of segue into having our patients present. So I welcome all the patients that have joined us from Evergreen and White Oak. It's just our first time having patients join us for one of these learning collaboratives. So we're really excited for this session. We thought it would be beneficial for the practices to hear directly from patients that are doing this great work in the PFAC. So, and what has kept them coming back. So we have quite a few patients joining us. Looks like we have 5 in total. So I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and introduce yourselves, if you wouldn't mind. You can just give us your first name and why you were, first intrigued to join the PFAC. So we'll go ahead and start with Linda, since we got just the one patient there, Evergreen, and then we'll go ahead and have everyone over at White Oak introduce themselves.
So my name is Linda, and I've been here from the beginning. I'm a loyal supporter of support teams and working together. And at the time I was working at a medical supply, and I saw the need to be able to personally bring input to the clinic, because at that end of things, I would hear situations, and I thought Evergreen could improve. And it's been a wonderful collaboration. And I think the community really profits from the fact that we patients have a valued opinion and participate in all of Evergreen. So it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. I'll hand it over to you guys over there at White Oak. You want to introduce yourselves?
So we have 4 patients with us. We can start with Debbie.
Okay, my name is Debbie, and I've been active with this since it began in 2017. I thought I could be of value because I have a business background. And so when Gabrielle approached me and, asked me if I'd participate, I was very interested. So I've been very glad to be part of this team.
My name is Doug, and I kind of followed my wife into this, but it's been a very, very good experience. We've seen the practice grow in the time that we've been here, and we like to be a part of helping that happen.
My name is Wendy, and as all of us have been here since the beginning of 2017, I think one of the things that I felt inspired to be part of this is, first of all, to help me learn and understand what a medical practice is about, other than going into a room and getting your temperature taken or your blood pressure done. One of the things I also felt is that I have been here since, we've been here since the beginning of Dr. Bolduc, who was the initial beginning of the practice, and to see her growth, but also her dedication to her patients. It inspired me to think, if she's doing this much for us, what can we do to help her do even more, or to help other people that may not have the advantage of insurance or what life throws at them. So it's been a growing experience for myself as well. And I've just feel like I've been appreciated for the information and that we've all shared, and that in return, what phenomenal people they are to be with.
My name is Nis, and I come from a retail store manager background. There's a lot of things from the business side, that thoughts and processes that switch over and tie into this. Wendy was a former school teacher. Again, some of the processes, I think all of us in the room add something to it, a different perspective. But I've really, the thing that keeps me coming back, I really enjoy the working with them, and it always makes a difference if you see them listening to you and they're receptive to it. There's a saying I had in my office when I was working, and it said, people will do more than expected if they know they are appreciated. And we appreciate these people in this office. They've done an awesome job for us.
And I think there's definitely the same on our side.
I'd like to open it up to anyone who has questions.
There's a couple, there is one in the chat,
Okay.
Amber. So as family medicine practices, do you feel your PFAC members address both realms of adult and pediatric needs?
And anyone feel free to answer.
In our case, yes, we have, one of our advisors has several children, and that was something that we were actively recruiting for, because a lot of our previous advisors were kind of out of the children's stage. So that has been a huge advantage to us to have her on and provide that feedback. So for us, yes, we are currently getting feedback from, birth to the end of life. So
I would think that this is something that maybe we could look at here. I know when I'm in here for regular appointments, I see lots of little kids. And if they're getting the kind of care that we are, I know we're covering that base, but it would just take it one notch higher to have feedback and look at recruiting somebody that has a younger kid. We're way beyond that. We're grandparents. So,
But we
Good
did
point.
had at some point
Yeah.
a younger family
Yeah,
coming
we
in.
did.
But I think it's just a little harder for them to really commit and join us all the time because they have other obligation, you know, and it doesn't always work with their schedule.
We can always widen our thought processes. As you do things, you're gonna find that it's really not any different. It's more age. But that's something we as a group can also think beyond where we always do and just think a little smaller, you know. So,
Actually, we could ask our providers
mhm.
what kind of things that they're hearing from the younger people that have children. And we might have a suggestion to help them out, because we've been kids once.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the lines as grandparents. I mean, maybe this is helping other people as well as we openly, this is how we do things, and it's so neat in this group. I mean, we're grandparents, so we could be talking to our daughter-in-law, our son. What do you look for? What is it you want? What do you appreciate? And actually glean from a generation that's a lot younger than we are, and see it, because I find even when we take care of our grandson, who is a year and a half, 14 months, whatever. Anyway, but her thinking, and as compared to what we did in raising our boys, whoa, things have changed. Right. What you feed them, what you don't feed them, what you protect them from, and I'm like, oh, what just happened here? So it kind of would be nice to maybe get some information and through the eyes of them as parents, besides being the grandparents, although we see a lot of that. But, yeah.
And we also run surveys every year that we give to families, and you know, part of it are for pediatric patients. So we also get some input.
Good
from
question.
them.
Good, yeah, it's a good question.
Well, and I think there's a comment in the chat that I think goes along really well with that, is someone asking about childcare being offered during these PFAC meetings. And I think that that's one of those things that could definitely entice, you know, a busy mom to come in and have an hour of childcare while she's.
Bring the kids.
Just bring the kids, yeah, we tell them, you know, come in, we have a little table for them to play with, you know, we'll give them snacks.
They might want a break. You never know. Yeah, but they do. Yeah, the kids can be here.
Yeah.
There's another question, and this could be to the clinic or the patients. When it comes to your agenda for your PFAC meetings, how much of it is, you know, something that you're coming with, or how much of it is, you know, open to comments and feedback from patients?
I would say, yeah,
50-50.
we all agree 50-50, yeah. Usually we have some, when we have new projects or we have new development at the clinic, or even when we have new staff, we will present them to the PFAC. And we usually come with half of the agenda and they are filling up the other half.
Yes, you had made a comment earlier though about how things have progressed so well that we really don't have.
Yeah, we're struggling harder to find something for them to improve.
That was actually my next question, was what would you improve?
That's a really nice problem.
Nice problem to have.
It's really something when you have to complain about the paint on the roof, you know, and that's pretty good.
I have a question.
You'd like to add? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to add, I have a question. What keeps you coming back to the PFAC time after time, meeting after meeting? If you can share that.
To support them, and in our case at White Oak, we've just become such an family. Is that a good way? A
That's what I was
family.
gonna say.
Yeah,
They're
we
part of the family.
basically feel like we're part of the family. Our appreciation and care about each other as patients as well as advisory. It's something that they say, can you come? And it's like, oh yeah, there's no question that we aren't in a group that we feel valued as part of that group.
Well, we feel like we're making a difference,
Mhm.
and I think that's the clue to anything in any business. If you're making a difference, then you're more likely to go back and do it again and again.
And it's exciting to see in between doctor visits, what has improved since the last time we were in there. How many new things have been added, or people, or,
What feedbacks we have implemented.
Mhm.
Yeah. And sometimes when they bring something to our attention, it's something they're not necessarily going forward with, but what do you feel about this? So they're trying to look at different things that they're looking at doing. They may do them, they may not, but they're trying to get a little bit extra input on this, and sometimes it remains the same. Sometimes we can critique it a little bit. So I think that's an important part, that they feel good enough about us that they will continue to ask us, what do you think if we did this?
Open communication. I think what you want to look for is people that are comfortable with open communication and not being offended. If you
Right.
say something that isn't like, oh, let's jump right on that, it's okay. Some things work out, some things don't. But at least you know that you're not going to feel put down or like, well, that's a crummy idea. You just like to share, and you know that, as Nis said, some of those things work, some of them don't.
Another thing the clinic has done is the staffing level has improved so much over the years, especially since we started this. When you walk into the clinic, you immediately feel welcomed, and there are no underlying attitudes in the office. You go into some doctor's offices and you immediately know that things aren't real calm in here. And this clinic has really worked hard and done well with their staffing.
right?
Very important, and no drama.
No
We are
drama.
no
Yeah,
drama
no
place.
drama.
And when you come in the door and you hadn't been in here for 6 months or 8 months, and you see the same people are still working here,
Actually,
That's the
Annie
plus.
has been with us for how many years?
Almost 11 years.
Yeah.
Almost 11 years.
She's our angel.
She is
Yes.
definitely an angel, yes, to the clinic.
So it looks
There
like
is-
we might have time for one more question. We want to hear from the patient at Evergreen. I don't know, there's a question in the chat. I don't know, Alicia, if you want to read it.
Sure. For the patient at Evergreen, what has been most fulfilling about serving on the PFAC?
Wow, there's several things. When I first started, I was also caring for elderly parents. And it was wonderful to bring my feedback here and have somebody listen when I felt that mom and dad need a little extra touch of something. And a lot of times it was just access as they grew older. So that was really beneficial. And then over the time, there's so many situations where I feel like us working together, that we've really resolved some situations that were beneficial to everybody. The doctors here are now so dedicated to the patients because they hear our feedback, and it makes us all more personal, I think. So I really especially enjoy the doctors that come to our meetings and we interact, and we all walk away feeling better that the practice is improving. So there's a lot of things I could mention, but the big one was the help with mom and dad's end of life care. That, yeah.
Great.
There is one more.
We're gonna go ahead and skip that one.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah, we're right at time. So I feel like this is a good time to go ahead and end things. So just thank you so much to our clinics that participated, our practices, our patients who participated. We really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. It's just, I think, really refreshing for the folks that have joined into the Learning Collaborative to hear from patients and see that a patient advisory council is not just a way to check a box in our program. I really feel that it can bring so much valuable feedback and just information to the practice. To be hearing this directly from your patients, as we heard, it's really great to have a different perspective on things that are going on in your practice. So again, just thanks to everybody who joined us, and hope you have a really great Friday and weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.